All right, welcome to the live stream, everybody. Bitcoin is in a very interesting place right now, so I wanted to take a look at some charts. I'll check out a few different time frames and stuff like that. I'm going to see what the MDX ALGO indicators are saying, go over some strategies I like to use when scalping and so on, as I always do at the end of these streams, checking out the degen time frames like the 1 minute so I can show things happening live with the indicators that I like to watch. As always, for any of you here with me on the Discord, feel free to ask any questions about my indicator settings, the features, questions in general. I'll do my best to answer all of them. And also, I may just take a bit to get back to you. If you guys want at any time, hop on the microphone and say hi, ask your question, whatever. I just ask that you keep your mic muted if you're not talking, just in case I get background noise or anything like that. But if you don't want to do that, there's also the chat box. Hopefully you've all found that. Feel free to ask questions in there at any time, and I'll try to remember to look at them here every so often. So with that, we're going to hop right into Bitcoin, looking at the 4-hour chart here. Now, you guys know that I was very vocal about this being an important level of support for the Bitcoin price. And that was basically because we had this high here and we got candle bodies closing above that. So we had a higher high here. And this would have been our lowest point between those two. So this is a level, this yellow box here, that I was watching since the 23rd of June it was. Basically, as soon as we got this confirmed new range here. And ever since that, we were just trading sideways. And one thing that I was saying is I wasn't going to be bearish until that support breaks. I caught many different scalp longs in this range. Basically, anytime we got into this box, I was just laddering into a long position, taking profits along the way, because we still do have these micro swings, we have structure and that sort of thing. So usually when I'm trading, I'm more of a scalper than a swing trader, so I'm very quick to end up closing a quarter, a third, or even a half of my position, and then I hope to catch a runner with the rest. So yes, even though I was bullish all throughout this area, just because, again, support is support until it's broken. So even though I was bullish in here, I was still taking some scalp longs and still winning money, even though I was wrong in the prediction. So that's kind of a nice, important little tidbit of information there, that even if you're wrong in a position, it's still possible to make money, which is great in the game of trading. Because no matter how good of a trade setup you have, there's always a possibility that you're wrong. So you always want to be ready for worst case scenario, basically. But as it stands right now, we did actually drop that support finally. So the structure of this chart has changed. And I mean, you guys know I am a bit of a moon boy. I have a hard time shaking my bullish bias sometimes, especially just because on the macro time frame, I'm so bullish. I can hop over to the weekly chart here. This is the logarithmic scale, so that's why it might look a little bit different from what you're used to. But ever since we got this change in structure, basically with this massive engulfing green candle here, that's where my opinion on the market changed a lot. And that's basically because, again, just looking at structure, we had this low, we had a lower low, lower high. We broke that level, flipped it from resistance into support, and kind of took off from there. So a very important level in the market. I would not want to see us get candle body closes below this bit of structure back here. As long as we're above that level, I'm bullish on the price. I think that's closer to, basically just below 25K. So anywhere in this range, as long as we're holding support anywhere in here, I'm going to be bullish for the, just for the, I guess, macro term here, the long-term to mid-term, even just mid-term trend. To long-term trend, I will be bullish. But if we break this level, that's where I have to reconsider that, hey, we might actually be coming back down to test some significant lows, maybe even all the way back to our lows here for the market cycle. I personally don't think it's going to happen, but you got to be ready for anything. And when I say I'm bullish here, I'm bullish on the macro trend here. I'm not saying that I think we're going to go absolutely parabolic anytime soon. I don't think that we're entering up-only season or anything like that. I really don't expect that for basically, I wouldn't be surprised to see us accumulate kind of for the next year in some sort of a bigger range like this. But obviously we're going to have to see what happens. I trade shorter time frames anyways. Just zooming out on the long term like this helps you really get a grasp for what's happening in the big picture. And as far as the big picture goes, I know I've mentioned this in a few videos. I'm very bullish as well, as long as we have this green cloud on the MDX Oscillator 5 down here. This green cloud is the money flow cloud, and basically money talks. I mean, you can see that anytime we had a cross with this indicator, there's been a very significant move. We had a bullish cross back in this area. We had a bearish cross in this area. So, I mean, obviously very important levels for the market when we see that indicator cross, or very important signals rather. And since we got one right here as well, I mean, I can't take that too lightly. I just can't help but feel that we are in at least the start of a bull market. Not saying we're going to break all-time highs right away or anything like that. I think we're far away from that, but I really do think the bottom is in. Obviously, anything can change, but as it stands right now, that's my opinion. What I would really like to see is, and this might be wishful thinking, I would love to see this candle end up just being a fake out, and by Sunday's close actually getting some sort of an engulfing close above this level. I would be extremely bullish if that happened. I don't know how likely that is. Right now, it looks like we are just struggling with this resistance that we set back here. You can see that we were trading into that range, but not really getting any candle body closes above it. So more so a double top more than anything. Let's just see what the other indicators are saying. The Oscillator 4 up here, we still had this hidden bullish divergence down here, but that may have played out already. This indicator really isn't overbought by any means. I mean, it's kind of in no man's land right now. No recent signals with this, really. And as far as the Oscillator 5 down here, kind of the same thing. We still have the green money flow, but there's no clear bearish divergences showing up or anything like that quite yet. So the weekly isn't in too bad of shape yet. I would really like to see us get some sort of a higher low bounce. Like I said, either we come back down and test this level of support down here and then start climbing, or even kind of finding support on top of some of this old resistance, also down at this Fibonacci line. And I think that would be an important level as well. So we're going to have to see on shorter time frames what happens there. Let's just make a couple random trend lines. Again, this is the this is the logarithmic chart here, so it may not line up perfectly. I just want to see what this trend line's looking like. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty significant uptrend. It's nice to see that we even got this little liquidity grab below it and got that pump to the upside there. So this was a bit of a fake out on the bears before we took that pump to the upside. On shorter time frames, I'm sure it looked like an absolutely rocket ship after we got closes back above this purple line, if I were to guess. But interested to see what happens here. I am kind of watching. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. You can see I have these white trend lines here. I'm going to zoom out to my daily chart. There's a few things I wanted to point out about this, actually. I do want to clean this up a little bit. Well, basically, as it stands, just for this downswing right here, this red line would be the lower high that I'm watching, just because we had this low here, we broke it, so we got a lower low. This, as far as this, and I'm just talking like from here where we topped out to just down here, this little swing, this would be our lower high currently of that swing. So that's why that red line is mapped out. I would love to see us get a bounce and closing above this level. If we just get some kind of a wick and shut down like that, I'm going to consider it that, or at least a very realistic chance that it's just a failed break and we are just going to start trending down a little bit. And what I would start watching at that point would be these white trend lines. I'm just going to erase that red one for now just to clean things up. But a couple trend lines I'm watching. Once again, this white one basically going from the bottom of our swing. I'm just going to modify it very slightly here. But basically something like that. And then also we have, just since the market front ran that line a little bit, I also mapped out this second upward trend line that's going a little more aggressive. Now, as long as we're holding these uptrends, I mean, the market's in a pretty good place, and that could be a decent little dump to the downside. If we were to test some of these levels, I mean, from where we're at right now, we could be looking at a 7 to 10% little dump to the downside there. So, I mean, there is absolutely potential for further downside. But what worries me a little bit more is, so we got this little bit of a failed break. If I just map out this red line here, once again, you can see that we broke above this line, but very quickly shut down, just considering it a bit of a fake out here. And so what I like to do in that case is I do like to connect basically the peaks. I really like to draw my trend lines with exact wicks. I use the wicks when I'm drawing out trend lines. So I'm just also just drift that down a little bit, this one up a little bit, just to get it pinpoint accurate here. But what I don't like about this is it's starting to resemble a rising wedge, which is generally speaking a bearish pattern that we usually, especially after 3 touch points of a trend line, get the break, respect the support resist flip, and see a continuation to the downside from there. That's something that we have to strongly consider here, that it is a possibility. And again, it's not valid until we actually get that break. I don't want to just sit here and say that, hey, we're definitely in a rising wedge, this is bearish, we're going to dump to the downside. I mean, it can go either way at this point. But if we do get some sort of another touch point on one of these trend lines, some kind of a bounce, and then respect them as resistance, I mean, that's where I would be looking for some sort of a juicy short. But and also when we get back to the top of this pattern, if we see another failed break, like right now our high is there, let's say we do get some kind of a bounce, we reclaim this yellow box, end up jumping to the upside, and we think that this is home free, we have broke resistance again, just watch for another little failed break. Again, just keeping an eye on the possibilities that we could be in this rising wedge. We're gonna have to see how that plays out. But other than that, on the other hand here, I want to mention something bullish that I notice, and that is the trend of the W's on the MDX ALGO 3 indicator. This has been one of my favorite strategies when scalping recently, and I've seen a few other people in the group have adopted it into some of their confluences that they use when determining which way to scalp and that sort of thing. So what I really like to see, and this has changed on the 4 hour, but on the daily here, you can see that we had this W here, and we set a higher high, suggesting that, you know, we are possibly trending to the upside still, just something to watch for there. And I mean, before that, you can see that we had this W here, set a higher high once again. So just noticing which way those go. One thing that I do watch for is when you get something like this, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that, you know, we're dumping to the downside from here, but I like to take this as a bit of a reversal warning, and I know that's what these signals are called, but this is a warning that I take a little more serious, is that when you get some kind of a warning that the trend may be shifting. So here we had our W, we had a higher low W, that was a beautiful sign. The fact that we got this little pullback and a lower one, that is a little sign to be cautious. But the fact is that when I use this strategy, I typically like to, and I don't typically trade the daily either, because again, I'm more of a scalper than a swing trader. But basically, this was valid with this W as long as we held above this W. That's just how I kind of look at these W's for which way they're trending type of thing. So yes, we did have this warning here, but we never did invalidate this one. So we still have the tops setting higher highs. And if we just look at the general direction of these bottom ones, yes, we had this little fake out here, but they are still in general trending to the upside. So something worth considering there, that since we got, especially when we get 2 in a row like this, and this is a scalping strategy I've been talking about recently, and something I've noticed that it works quite well with quite often, is when you get, let's say, 2 tops in a row like this, a high and a higher high. When we come back and set some sort of reversal warning, the next point like that is quite often a juicy sign that, hey, this is where the market is looking to reverse. But again, this is valid until we would lose this level anyways. But that's just a signal that I would take quite seriously if on the daily I see that we print another higher low W, which is the reversal warnings. So that is something that I just noticed yesterday and I wanted to point out to you guys today. But just zooming in from the daily, let's just keep zooming in here. We look at the 4-hour chart here. Just going to clean things up a little bit. Once again, as I mentioned, the W's were starting to shift on the 4-hour, which is a bit of a concern. I can just show you how they played out, basically. This is one of my favorite strategies. That's why I'm talking about it so much. But we had this low here. We set a higher low, and obviously we got a nice play to the upside using the other W's as take profits. This one here, it wasn't higher, but it was more so a double bottom more than anything. It wasn't lower, it wasn't higher. But now we obviously have set a lower low, and as well we've set a lower high. So this was actually a beautiful sell signal, and I can zoom right in on that, see how it looked in real time. I find that these signals can be a little bit more reactive, a little bit quicker than the long and short signals, which is a big reason why I use them. But yeah, obviously this W would have triggered, I wouldn't have considered it valid until this candle body closed right here. But obviously it did make a very nice call there. And if you took profits at the next W here, boom, beautiful strategy right there. And again, my reasoning for that is just we had... so we had this high, the W's changed directions because we set a high, higher high, then we set a lower high here. So they did change directions. And yeah, obviously the lower ones here did as well. So what I'm looking for now is, I would love to see us bounce back into and even above this yellow box, reclaim it as support. I would start to be a little bit more bullish again. And even right now, I'm not super bearish. I thought I would be if we close this level, but the fact is we're starting to get these warnings, potential bottom signal here. Yes, this could just turn into a bit of a bear flag and carry down towards those trend lines I was talking about earlier. But as it stands right now, what I'm really curious to see is where the next W ends up lining up. If we get some kind of a bounce and, we do make it all the way up here and we set a W and we now have a higher one, I think that's a beautiful sign that, hey, we might be out of our downtrend already. But if we get some kind of a bounce, let's say up into this old support, new resistance, form a W, and it's a little bit lower once again, that could, in theory here, we're going to have to see what happens in the next couple days, but that's where I would be very... strongly considering taking a short, or at least taking scalp short at that point, just because I love this W strategy where I find out it just really helps point out which way the market is trending. It's easy to zoom out and say, oh, it was easy to see which way this was trending, but realistically at the heat of the moment, it's hard to tell which way things are going to go for sure. And this can really just help provide a little bit of confluence to your decision making when deciding which way to trade the trend and stuff like that. So, but yeah, let's, does anyone have any questions so far? Or is everything all good? I will just slowly zoom into other time frames here and just kind of check out these indicators, kind of see what they're saying in general. Actually, while I'm here and seeing things, another reason to possibly be bullish here is, although this is a lower low on the reversal warnings, we do also have this bullish pivot on the oscillator 4 up here. And we did get this bullish divergence on the oscillator 5 down here. There is a red money flow on the oscillator 5 on this time frame, so there's a little bit of mixed signals right now, you guys. I'm not interested in shorting this unless I find some kind of a scalp during the stream or something like that. I'm not really interested in shorting at this point. Maybe if we see a rejection in this box, or like I said, we see a lower high come into play with these reversal warnings, something like that, I might consider swinging at a short. But as it stands right now, there's kind of mixed signals, so I'm not super confident either way, to be honest. But I like to look at shorter time frames, which most of you guys know, so I'm just going to keep zooming in here. Let's see what the 1 hour is saying. So the 1 hour, yeah, the W's are in a downtrend. You can see it's very close here. I'm just going to put this line on the top of this little W ball. basically a double top there, I think. But then we did set a lower one here. And obviously that initiated quite a dump. So again, you see this kind of a signal. It can be very strong confluence. That would have been right about there when the candle would have closed. Beautiful signal for that dump there. I did not catch that by any means. I'm just pointing out a strategy that I use. I obviously don't catch them all or anything like that. And obviously this is Captain Hindsight here, but just look how beautiful that does play out. On top of that, we even had these, the lows were getting lower, right? Here we basically, we did have this higher one here, but obviously then we got another reversal. So there's your take profit signal. It would have won the scalp, but it was very short, obviously. After that, we just set lower low W's, and that was another warning that things were about to take a tumble. So I mean, you mix these lower lows with the lower high here. I mean, that was an absolutely beautiful call by this indicator. And another thing that went along with it absolutely perfectly is the oscillator 4 had this bearish pivot, and the oscillator 5 had this big red dot, which is a overbought dot. So even though we had the green money flow there, we had all three signals, all three indicators lining up together on the 1 hour with the downtrend confirmation with the W's. Absolutely phenomenal trade setup right there. Looking back, yeah, I'm usually not looking at the hourly, to be honest, and I missed a great signal there. So it's a very cool strategy. I'm actually curious how, I know a lot of you guys have seen me posting about that in the Discord before. How many of you guys have kind of started using that a little bit in your trade setups, and have you had good success with it? Have you, or just like using it as confluence? How have you enjoyed that, if you have? You're gonna copy my screen design? Oh, with like the oscillator 4 up here, oscillator 5 on the bottom, ALGO 3 in the middle. I really like this. And then just because I do see a few new faces in here today, I do just want to bring up my settings as I zoom in a little further here. I'm actually going to hop right over to the 1 minute because everyone loves a degen chart here. That was a beautiful little call there, actually. So yeah, on the 1 minute here, I just want to show you a couple things. For one, if your guys' chart looks funny at all, you can either right click on one of these signals, or on the ALGO 3, click the 3 dots, go to visual order, bring to front. If your candles don't look crisp or anything, they look funny by any means, that very well could be the issue. And as well, right click over on the price bar over here and click scale price chart only. Make sure those two things are done, otherwise your charts might look a little bit funny. But yeah, I can just check out my settings here while we're looking at the 1 minute chart here. My candle color, that's all personal preference, and you can see that I use invert colors, and I actually had a buddy ask me about that when he was looking at my charts the other day. He's like, oh, your colors are backwards. And yeah, I actually do that intentionally because I love when the indicators line up. When you have the oscillator 5 with a bunch of green, the oscillator 4 with a bunch of green, and your candles on the way down are starting to flip green with signals. I just like everything to kind of match up like that. So that's why I do it. I've only recently started doing that in the last few months, but I really like the inverted colors. It's not for everyone, but aside from that, I keep my signals very clear here. I basically only use trend 1. I use volume weighted moving average just because it reacts nice and quick. That would be this very quick flippy line here. And in trend 2, I use the EMA 1 hour, and this is on a 1 minute chart. So even though we're on a degenerate time frame like a 1 minute, it's nice, and my favorite thing about these indicators is the fact that you can keep an eye on bigger trends without having to flip-flop between different time frames a million times. So if I'm on the 1 minute, I can see the 5 minute trend, I can see the hourly trend, or whatever I set them to, right? And you can actually add several MDX ALGO 3s to your chart if you have it. And I know some of you may have seen in the chat, Thumpcase, he uses like 6 or 8 trends. I think he just loads up a few MDX algos, so you can have a whole bunch of these trend lines and come up with your own system or whatever. But this is just my settings. I do keep the moving average cloud on double exponential. That's just how it came. And reversal warnings, that's these W's. That's my one of my favorite things about this indicator as well. They play a key part in a couple of my trading strategies, so I use those as well as the tops and bottoms just because they're not very intrusive. They're just those very small blue triangles. I don't even know if you can see them, but there's one up here and a couple down here. So other than that, I like to keep my charts pretty clean. Maybe I'm just a little OCD, but I like to keep them nice and clean. So that's basically my settings in a nutshell. I'm just going to catch up on the chat here. I use the W strategy on 1 minute for seeing early reversals and on 5 minute for getting a feeling when an entry could present itself. On 1 hour, I use it to decide whether to hold positions for longer time periods. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds very similar to what I do, to be honest. I really like, even though I'm trading the 1 minute, I generally have an idea what's going on the bigger time frames, like the 4 hour or whatever. But yeah, when you're really looking to enter into a position, it doesn't hurt to check out some longer time frames. Even if you have trend lines mapped out on longer time frames and then really zooming into, like, let's say a 1 minute or a 5 minute to decide when to get your best possible entry, basically. So yeah, using the W strategy on many different time frames, that could absolutely give you just different confirmations, right? Whether, like you said, whether you should hold it longer, whether you should maybe take half your profits or something like that. And that's something that I take quite seriously is, let's say, for example, we get a higher W kind of a thing, enter on that. Since we got this W here, I would be looking to take half my profits if I was looking for a scalp like that. Just because, hey, that is another warning. Yes, it wasn't much of a win, but you know what? Even if you're not taking a ton of profits, you are reducing your risk. So let's say things do reverse here because we do have this warning here. It's a little flip-floppy. We have a lower high. It is possible that this is a reversal here. So that's the kind of position that I would want to be in, where I'd want to downscale for that kind of a thing if I was in that type of a scalp. Looking at a different strategy, I was talking about the 1 hour trend recently. I also really like to enter positions near the 1 hour trend, and that goes for shorts and longs. And once again, I love to see those W's along it. Preferably, we actually get the test of the 1 hour trend and then a W kind of like this, but obviously it never quite reached it there. But that way you would have a stop loss reference point as well. But yeah, I really like the 1 hour trend, so I'm considering just laddering into a long position down towards this level. Even if we don't get a perfect setup with this, we're going to have to see here. But yeah, as far as the 1 hour trend goes, I'm actually going to even remove the 5 minute trend just to really clean things up here. So now we only have the 1 hour trend here. And I mean, I saw Jay talking about it earlier in the group, that it can be such a good signal. Anytime you start getting near that 1 hour trend and seeing reversal warnings, we actually never even got it on this dump here. We never did come back and retest it, unfortunately. But I mean, you did have these downward sloping W's for pretty much the whole time. So, I mean, there was the warning signals there that we were going to dump a little bit further. Let's just see where we're at right now. Yeah, even back here, you can see that we tested it. As soon as we got that W reversal warning after this little fake out here, I mean, that was a nice little signal right there as well. That would have been a beautiful short call. I wasn't scalping shorts today. So like I said, this is Captain Hindsight, so take it for what it is. But that is one of my favorite strategies. Trending W's and W's along my 1 hour trend basically are two of my favorite trading strategies. And it doesn't work every time. You know, just like any trade setup, you just weigh out your odds. And, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I find that the winners on this kind of a thing, like it is called the 1 hour trends, right? So when this thing turns into a trending market, the amount, like let's say you did enter along this, if we got this W a little bit lower, let's say you even got in somewhere around here. This is all theoretical, remember, this hasn't actually happened, but had we got this little dip below the 1 hour trend but closed above, nice little liquidity grab, then let's say your stop loss was something like that. Very tight, below a little bit of structure, and depending where your previous wick would have been here, but just for example sakes, it would have been a very small loss, even if you loosened it up a little bit. Whereas if you get into a trending market, I mean, even if you were to retest the range highs here, I mean, that risk reward is massive. So even if it doesn't play out, I mean, as long as you have proper risk reward or proper risk management, then it's just one of my favorite setups there. Because man, when that turns into a trending market, like I said, even if it just made it to the top of the range, that's a beautiful risk reward ratio there. But if it actually starts trending, I mean, that is absolutely that can be the rewards can far outweigh the risk. So I do want a little bit of a long here, guys. And my stop loss is basically going to be below this structure back here. I just, since we are so close to this 1 hour trend, I'm just going to take a swing at it. But like I said, I do like to ladder into my positions as something like this. So I'm just basically entering half of my position, and I want to enter the other half, basically touching the 1 hour trend, just so I can bring my average entry down and reduce my risk. So I never take a market order, but what I will do is I'll set a limit order above the price so it automatically hits me in. I just don't like market orders because I have been burned by them before, where I have experienced slippage, where I got into positions at much different prices than what I wanted, just in a split half second like that. So that is something that I don't like to do an actual market order, but if I do want to be in it right now, like I said, I'll just put the price a couple bucks higher and enter. But that way, at least there's a max to what I'll pay. I actually used to set a lot of momentum orders where I'd play breakout trades, and I would often use a market order because I was always scared of not getting into the position. Like if I had my stop limit too close, that maybe the slippage blasts right past. So I've done momentum market orders where I got in at much different prices than I was trying to get into. I remember one time my phone alert went, said basically my trend line had been hit and broken, and I got a message saying I was in a position. And when I looked, I was like, oh man, this position is just going to be absolutely enormous. After a minute, I thought I was sitting very good because it just exploded. And when I looked, I was only up a couple percent because my order got such bad slippage, and I was so mad. So that's just kind of one of those moments that made me not use market orders anymore. To each their own. That was also many years ago. Liquidity might have been a little bit shittier on exchanges and stuff like that. Something to consider, but still do have thin order books sometimes. To be honest, as far as a scalp goes, this doesn't really meet my trending W's, just because we do have the higher low W, but we don't have the higher high W's. So this is a bit of a high risk trade because, for one, like between the W trending strategy and the W off the 1 hour trend, I like both those strategies, but during this stream, I don't know how realistic it is that we actually get down here, so that's why I'm kind of doing it a little bit premature here. I just want to have something in there, something exciting for the stream. Hopefully just because we are close to the 1 hour trend, I would like to have something in here. And also the ALGO 3 here, it is showing these potential demand zones, which is nice. We got a nice bright one here, so there was a couple different times where it acted as a demand zone. And as well, we have another one down here just below the 1 hour trend. So hopefully one of those will act as support here. The MDX price line in red, green, and blue. Oh, you mean the candle colors? A little bit. That's kind of what I was talking about with the having the inverted colors, just because, you know, we have, for example, a W here, and on top of that, you have the bright green candles. That's just kind of, if anything, it helps me notice that all three indicators are lining up together. It's not necessarily a prerequisite for me entering a trade, but I do consider it a little bit. It's one of the last things I factor in, but I do notice it. But like I said, just kind of mostly just the bright green and the bright red. The shifting momentum colors, they can kind of flip-flop a little bit. Generally speaking, the bright colors, I'll take the signals a little more serious. Yeah, you know, we've had some good luck with getting the Asian market open pumps on some of these streams recently. They're opening in, what, 7 minutes? I think it was my last stream we got a nice little pump right at the end. So we got a high and we set a higher high W. Now what I would love to see is a higher low W. Preferably kind of in this demand zone here, this green box, because as far as this, just kind of this very micro swing, remember this is only a 1 minute, but just this very micro swing here, this would be our high, this is our higher high, this is our higher low. So if we get candle body closes below this demand zone here, that structure kind of changes and we might have a little bit of a downswing. So at that point, it's possible that, hey, we might be reversing right back down again. We still do have this hourly trend down here, so it depends what kind of a time frame you're looking at. But as it stands, this would be our higher low structure on this very micro swing here. I'll keep that up too. Here, why don't I make it green? If we get a 1 minute candle body close below this green line that I have mapped out, I would actually consider reducing my position size, just because that's one of the things I look for. If, hey, you know, yes, it's only a 1 minute, but that's also kind of what I'm trading here. So if we do have a break in that structure, even if I want to hold on to this trade because I do want to add to it at my 1 hour trend here, I would consider the possibilities of bringing my average entry down significantly more. That being said, if we get a higher W, let's say in this green demand zone here, I would actually consider adding a little bit early. But as soon as we get candle bodies closing, confirming potential change in structure, I will want to be downsizing my position. Even if it ends up being the incorrect move, if I'm that unsure about it, I would just really rather reduce my risk rather than anything. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm curious, have any of you guys come up with your own strategies with the indicators at all? And is there anything else you guys want me to touch on with the indicators? Do you have any features you're not sure about? The one that keeps coming up that I can't really help much with is the alerts, because the alerts, they don't have matching alert names to what the indicator calls them, so it gets a little confusing. It's a trial and error thing. I personally haven't been using them. I've just been going on price level alerts instead. Like, let's say I was watching this green line, I would do something like that, add alert once per minute. If I'm ever watching any significant levels, I usually set my alerts for once per minute, just so my phone really lets me know that I should go check out the charts, find out what's happening. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night, middle of the day, whenever. I like to have those alerts up, but yeah, that's not exactly on 1 minute trend lines. That's more when I'm watching like 4 hour trend lines, daily trend lines, stuff like that. So as far as my W strategy goes, since we do have this higher high W, the next bullish W would be the entry I'd be looking for. I know that's not exactly what I entered a position on. But just as far as that strategy specifically goes, when I see the high W, higher high W, come down, get some sort of a reversal warning like that, that's generally where I look for a bit of a scalp. Just one of many trading strategies. Could try out alerts with percentage change on the 1 minute or 5 minute to be alerted when rapid price moves happen. Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually considering downsizing my position right now until we get that next W, but let's just see what happens. Just because I just noticed we did have this bearish divergence on the oscillator 4 up here, and as well on the oscillator 5 down here, so is something to consider. Yeah, exactly. After the first moving candle, if your alert went because of a big price change, often multiple other candles will move fast too. Absolutely, because yeah, quite often. I mean, if that alert's going to go of a big price change, I mean, volatility is obviously in the market, so it would make sense that it would keep that volatility for a little bit, both directions, honestly. But that's what we're here for. Volatility doesn't necessarily matter the direction. As long as the markets keep moving, it's fun. Anyone else in any positions right now? Or thinking about any specific levels you're waiting to get into one? Yeah, Pete, you were talking about aiming for that 31, what was it, 31.8? I would love that. Now, from in the group, I would say you're more of a scalper as well, or do you also have swing trades? I mean, I guess if you're looking for 31.8, that is a decent size move. That's actually a nice swing. But I've seen you change directions quite a bit, and I've seen you take some nice wins too. I love scalping. I also gives me something to do while I'm playing video games too. I like to multitask, so that's why I have 3 monitors, so I can sit here and day trade degen scalp and watch something on the other screen and play video games on the other. And the MDX ALGO 3 has made it so easy to multitask, I guess, because that's the thing, right? These supply and demand zones, these red and green boxes, I mean, that's all mapped out by the indicator. I didn't do shit there. That's the supply and demand checkbox for anyone who's unsure, anyone watching on my YouTube channel later. That's all the indicator doing it. So as I'm degen trading a 1 minute or a 3 minute or a 5 minute, I don't have to be constantly mapping out new boxes and shit, because this indicator actually basically maps them out the exact same way I do. So not as much flip-flopping between charts and just being able to multitask, like I said, and just watch the other screen and not have to map stuff out constantly every few minutes when you're really looking at degen scalping. I mean, things change very quickly, obviously. That is technically a close below. I am going to downsize my position a little bit just because I think I might be able to add in a little bit lower. And if not, well, then I still have some in anyways. Or do I? Maybe I wait for this candle. Let's wait for this candle to close yet. If it closes with a W, I might add a little bit instead. Interesting. Well, there's that W that I wanted. Got the higher trending W's. As far as this strategy goes, that's where I like to scalp an entry. Scalpy, scalpy. And now whenever we get our next W, I will be closing half my position. If we now set a lower low W, I will probably close the whole position and then wait and see what happens. Actually, no, as long as we stay above this level, I think I'm going to set my stop loss about 177. We're migrating from the 1 hour trend strategy to the W strategy here. Since I added rather than removed, I can always take a new position if I end up getting stopped out or closing this position, whatever. I can re-enter at this 1 hour trend and find a different scalp there. But as it stands right now, I like this setup. I would say generally speaking, swing traders probably outperform scalpers. There's obviously more potential with scalps if you are nailing a whole bunch of them. But generally speaking, that can lead to over trading and revenge trading, over leveraging, and all that kind of shit. Just trading the 1 minute in general can be bad for that. So just be careful with that, guys. I know I trade the 1 minute. That's not for everybody, and it leads to a lot of bad habits. So just be cautious of that. The reason I do it in these live streams so much is because it's just so much easier to show you these strategies playing out in real time. They are a little bit less effective on shorter time frames like this, but it's just, yeah, if I was looking at them on any other time frame, it would be pretty hard for me to show you how I use them live like this. If you were really looking for just in and out scalps kind of a thing, I would be looking at even taking a little bit of profits already as we're heading up towards this supply zone here. But depends what level of scalping you're really looking at. I more so want to see when the next W is. That's a good question. I would say, well, even using the same capital, because you have to consider that, yes, if you're scalping short-term trades, yes, you have the possibility to catch more trades and more profits, obviously, but with that generally comes more losses as well inside those trades, especially as you get cocky and you start making stupid decisions just because you think you're super smart and all of a sudden things change in the charts and you weren't ready to adapt or whatever. That's where swing trading, you can just really look at things with a more level head rather than just flip-flopping so much and just focusing. I guess you have more time to step back and form better decisions rather than if you're looking at scalping the 1 minute, for example. It's very easy to be like, to FOMO in a little later than you should have, but then you think, oh, it's just the 1 minute, that's not too far anyways. Like, oh, I can FOMO in here, but again, it's the 1 minute, so maybe you're still entering at a bad position based on this trade setup and that kind of thing. So I think just the thing with swing trading is that, yeah, like I said, just more time to look at things with a level head. Just think a little clearer. But if you're really good at scalping, I mean, there is scalpers out there who make a shit ton of money. Obviously, that can go for any type of trading. Everyone has their own strategy that works for them. So it really just depends what really works for you. I find that I end up, when I'm looking at swing trading, I tend to update my stop losses too soon and stuff like that. So I just found that when I scalp, I'm more likely to at least close part of my position, look at it as taking part of a position or partial profits and actually making some of those profits. So it's just kind of knowing your weaknesses and knowing your strengths. Well, what's happening here? Maybe I should have listened to myself at partial profit taking up there. Not quite getting the reaction I was hoping out of this one. Maybe we are still going to come down and test the 1 hour trend here. Kind of looks like we're going to. In which case I'm going to be in a new position right away, probably. And then if I were to lose 2 positions in a row like that, I'd probably just call her quits for the day. Before I end up revenge trading and doing something stupid. Just to switch things up a little bit real quickly, I just want to talk about Propsy. This was an altcoin that's been moving quite well recently. This is the 4 hour chart here, and I was actually talking about this on my Twitter. I know I posted it on the Discord as well. But I was basically a week or two ago, I was loading up on some Propsy. I know I've seen MDX talk about this several times as well. Something to do with property or real estate in Dubai or something like that. But I'm not a fundamental guy. I'm more of a chart guy, but I liked what I was seeing with the W's there, basically. Saw that we broke this yellow trend line, and I figured it was going to make a nice move. So obviously since then, we have been confirming higher lows. Just kind of what I was looking at with structure earlier. Like we obviously had this high here, we broke it, set a new oh, this line should actually be down just a little bit. Just for our new confirmed higher low here. And then we obviously broke this level, came back down, tested this. This was then our higher low. And then we obviously broke out of that range, came back down, set a new higher high here. This would have been the lowest point between those two. So that is now our current higher low, confirmed higher low. So it is making a nice uptrend there. Obviously, pullbacks are to be expected. So, I mean, that's the thing. Even these newer low cap coins like this, I think the market cap on this coin is only like 5 million or something like that. I think it was only 2 or 3 million when I was buying it back here. But they're obviously quite volatile. So even to come down to that invalidation point is like a 15 to 20% dump to the downside to invalidate that uptrend. So these lower cap coins, they're obviously higher risk, but I do like that it is holding those confirmed higher lows. And as well, it is technically in price discovery right now. And I mean, if you've ever been a part of a bull market, when Bitcoin breaks its all-time high, I mean, you see that generally things go parabolic. And that's kind of what we have back here. I mean, ever since it was launched on BitGet, we've obviously broke that level, so we're basically trading in these uncharted territories. So something to pay attention to there. That's one altcoin that I've been building a bit of a bag with. I don't like that it broke this little uptrend we had. That was obviously a pretty steep one. But after that, we'd be looking at more something like that. So, I mean, even if we come back down and retest this higher low area, obviously the MDX ALGO 3 also has this support cloud that lines up pretty well with that level. So we do have support here. I would love to see this take off. I mean, even just to map out this old resistance of this swing here. Even to flip that into support right now would be absolutely beautiful to see. But as far as the uptrend goes, we do have some wiggle room to the downside that we could fall before the structure of that really changes. We did get that lower low W there. I do like that it's in this demand zone here. I don't like that it's at a lower low. Realistically, I should have my stop loss below the 1 hour as well, but with scalping, you must be more precise with prices when opening and closing positions due to little price deltas and fees in comparison to swing trading. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Obviously, fees are a thing. So if you're constantly opening and closing positions, that's going to eat away at any profits a little bit. And also, there's a good chance you're using a lot higher leverage if you're looking at those shorter time frames, tighter stop losses and stuff like that. So I believe that also changes the fees a little bit. I could be wrong on that. It might just go by your position size in general. And honestly, that's another reason I like to take profits pretty quickly if I'm in a winning position, is even if nothing else, just to cover the fees and whatnot. Oh yeah, I feel like I'm going to get stopped out here. We have this demand, or this supply zone that just showed up on top. That's not good. But whatever, it is what it is. I'm more interested in playing this guy down here. Here we go. Well, that's as good as going in a second here. But I want to see how we react to the 1 hour trend here. Oh, I didn't update my stop loss yet. Whoops. I mean, maybe I should just leave it. I really think we're going to come down and test this 1 hour trend here. You know what? I'm keeping my stop loss looser. It's not a huge position anyways. Oh, that was supposed to be lower than that though. 129 is what I was looking for. The moving averages I use, sure. Trend 1, volume weighted moving average on 5 minutes. And trend 2 is EMA on 1 hour. And there's no magical number that's going to necessarily work every time or anything like that. These are just numbers that I've used. Someone else recommended using this one, and I just started using it a little bit and liked it. Trend 1 or 2, the EMA in the 1 hour, that's just what I've used ever since using these indicators for the last year. So I've just kept that one. That's a trend that I've really liked in the past. Like I said, doesn't work out every time, but it's one that I've had some very nice trades in a trending market where that has just been absolutely beautiful. So I really like that one. Someone just recommended volume weighted moving average. They just said that it seemed to react quicker, and I thought as far as a shorter time frame goes, that maybe I would just use that one. And it's just kind of something I've stuck with. No specific reason, really. Something to watch for would be a lower W coming into play. Especially now that these guys are trending down. Something to watch for. We're getting real close to that 1 hour trend. The 5 minute. Still got this 1 hour trend right in line with the bottom of that demand zone on the 5 minute. But yes, it does look a little bit like it wants to curl over, hey? We also have this hidden bearish divergence here. Yeah, we're going to have to see. This 1 hour trend might not even hold. Especially because we did even get that candle body, which looks like it would have closed below the 1 hourly there. Let's see if we can get right back above it. If not, I have a feeling it is just going to take a little dumperoonie. Well, I think we're back above the 1 hour trend. I still don't like that I really wish this would line up all the way. But I don't even like the fact that we closed a 1 minute candle below that. I really don't like to see candle bodies closing below. So that is unfortunate. Oh yeah, I think we're going for a little tumble here, fellas. Yeah. And now we'll probably spring right back up above the 1 hourly. Well, that's too bad that one never worked out. Turns out that break in structure on the 1 minute was very powerful there. That was more powerful than the W indicator there. So if you take nothing else away from this lesson, take away a structure lesson. Like I said, even on the 1 minute here on this swing, the fact that we had a high here and a higher high, this was our higher low, and look what happened after we broke that level. I mean, it flipped into resistance and broke to the downside. So yeah, I was sticking to my position based on the 1 hourly trend. Structure was obviously more important in this case. So definitely a lesson learned there. It is kind of looking like it's time for a long... Do I take another since I only took the one loss? Testing out the 786 fib. You guys know I love that fib. We might actually come down to the 886 though. Yeah, I was gonna say that did look like a head and shoulders on the 1 minute, but I personally, I don't know, I don't like head and shoulders all too much. But yeah, it absolutely did happen there. We did get a close below this level back here, which makes me think that even if we do get a pump to the upside, we might end up getting rejected. I should have had the Fibonacci's up earlier. That was a beautiful bounce off the 786. Let's see if we can notice a... I wish this candle would have closed above this level. Just again, a bit of a change in structure as far as this single swing goes. This thing is V-shaping here. Do I order a limit order already before the 618 gets hit? Like how we just hit it now? If I'm going off fibs, I generally like to ladder in at the 786 and the 886, get an average entry kind of somewhere in the middle. Since we broke this, I am tempted to start laddering into a long again, but I think I'm going to wait a sec. Man, that's a big wick of buys right there. I guess another lesson, guys, other than that structure lesson, would be should have stuck to my guns of, we did have this potential uptrend. I still stand by this signal right here. I love to scalp those entries, but I should have stuck to my plan of at least downsizing my position when we got a lower low set, because that was, again, it was just an early warning that the trend might be shifting. So even if you want to stay in a position, that's just a really good signal for even just downsizing, just reducing risk, taking partial profits, whatever you got to do. Something worth considering. Whoops. Just lay out a little color coding for the W strategy here. So here we set our higher highs. That was basically our warning to look for a long entry. This would have been our long entry, but then it very quickly, even though this strategy was wrong here, it did warn us quite early that we could have backed out if we were looking at just that strategy, for example. That's basically how I would treat that. Obviously, I didn't this time because I was still looking at the 1 hour trend, but as far as the W's on their own, that is how that strategy kind of works. Hopefully that makes sense. Not getting as many W's as me. It might be because I am on the MEXC chart. If you're on Bybit or Binance or something like that, it might be slightly different. Or if you're on like spot rather than the futures chart, that could vary as well. I don't see why that would be a huge issue. The price could be slightly different, so just be careful with that when you're setting stop losses and whatnot. If you're watching on one exchange and trading on another, yeah, just be a little bit cautious of the price. I am tempted to take another small long. I don't like to revenge trade, so I shouldn't. But just that we got this close above this level could be a change in structure as far as this swing goes. But quite often I do see the price pull back to that 886 if it's going to continue its trend. So it is a little bit risky. What are the other indicators saying here? Kind of in no man's land. Nah, fuck it. Just a little guy. Just ladder in. Yeah, honestly, guys, as far as scalping goes right now, I would be a little cautious. We are now below the 5 minute trend as well. We've got below the 1 hour trend, so yes, it could be a fake out yet. I have a feeling that we are going to see this do a little bit of a crisscross, something like that, relatively soon. And then start watching that 1 hour trend for potential W touches if we do get that. Potential scalp entries as far as shorts go, or even taking profits in if you're in a bit of a long. That's a signal to watch for sure. As it stands right now, we do have this cloud of resistance above us. The W's are still trending down. I would really like to see a couple topper W's do something like that, followed by a higher low W, something like that. That would be ideal when looking for a scalp long coming up. You would use another window for your exchange in parallel to Binance. Reacting. Yeah, just because you might get different signals on a Binance chart compared to, let's say, if you're using MEX to trade on or something like that. I haven't tested anything like that with the indicators. So, I mean, use your own discretion. But it would be definitely something worth checking out and just seeing how it plays out. Because, yeah, maybe we're missing some signals if you are to look at a different chart or something like that. Yeah, there we go. What's prop C looking like on a shorter time frame here? I have no idea how reliable these indicators would be on something like prop C, to be honest. Just because I haven't really looked at them on it a whole bunch, like the 4 hour. Yeah, I saw the W's and whatnot. As far as we just got a higher W, but I mean our last one was way down here. So it's been quite a while, but it is nice to see that we do have that higher W here. The W switched to higher on top as well. This W did happen in an old resistance zone, possibly flipping into support. That's not the kind of coin that you're trading with leverage or anything like that, though. I mean, the liquidity, the trading volume in general is quite low. So, I mean, you see some crazy wicks if you're looking at the 1 minute. You see some crazy movements that are very quick. I mean, what's this in 1 minute? Basically, you're getting 6%, 6 or 7% moves in basically 1 or 2 minutes. So, I mean, this is a little different than trading with leverage, obviously. I'm only trading prop C with spot. I am considering trying to coin build accumulate with them. So basically, if I think it's going to drop, rather than shorting, I'd just be selling, buying back a little bit cheaper, just to try and accumulate more of these coins for free, basically. So that's something I'm going to try and do, but I don't think I can really do that on the 1 minute or anything like that, because there's such, like I said, such low trading volume that, I mean, it's going to be a dangerous game in that case. You'd probably want to be at least an hourly chart kind of a thing. But something I'm considering, but not all too eager to have to do it. As it stands, I'm just kind of enjoying watching the price action, seeing this trend to the upside. How long do you wait patiently for a good opportunity on average? I guess as long as I have to. I guess that's a hard question to answer. Depends what I'm up to, I guess. If I think I'm going to be busy and there's a position I really want to get into, I might just start with a very small position and ladder into one, for example. If I'm looking at more of a scalp entry, then however long it takes for whatever signal I'm looking at, like if I was looking for the higher W's to form right now, obviously, yeah, I have no idea when that's going to happen. It really depends what your risk is sitting at the time, what size of a position you're looking at entering, because obviously the larger position, the more accurate I want to be on my entry as well. The 5 minute has bullish setup, you say? Ooh, interesting. Yeah, that's nice to see. And yeah, that would have lined up on the 1 minute as well. Another thing about this that I like is this wick we had back here. We weren't actually closing candle bodies below that. So that is still not looking all too bad. And like I said, also the Fibonacci's, right? Just from this swing here even. But yeah, so far that's not looking like such a bad bounce there, to be honest. I would love to see when this hourly trend updates to just see it stay green and show potential support still. That would be just lovely. So even as far as a scalp goes, like I was talking about structure before, obviously we at low, lower low, that means this was our lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So this was still our lower high, and since we broke that level here, then you basically want the trend to hold this level. Like obviously we get that initial little pullback, and as soon as we got the green candles there, started traveling to the upside. So it's crazy how well just basic chart structure does work, even on a 1 minute like this. It seems to at least be respected a little bit. Obviously we're getting kind of up to the top of this range again, so even if you did take this trade, you'd be already starting to consider taking some scalp profits if that's what your goal is. But yeah, what I'd like to see is a W here, a higher W here, followed by a higher W on the bottom, something like that. Just so that we get those two tops back to back, and then pull back for the next W and still being higher than the previous W. That would be ideal. But you don't enter early at the first W top before the. Like you mean if let's say I got a W top here followed by a W top here, you're talking about entering on that second W here, kind of. It depends what else is happening in the chart, because there is definitely times where you might just see the top W's just go like that and you don't even get another bottom W. That absolutely can happen in a trending market, so that is something to be cautious of. You're not always going to get that perfect entry where you get that other W, so there is times where I'll front run that and not wait for that other W, just based on the tops trending to the upside, for example. But then I'm usually looking for other signals like bullish divergences, those tops and bottom signals, those little blue triangles I pointed out before, stuff like that. The moving average cloud, the trend lines, even the demand zones, supply and demand zones. It kind of depends what else is going with it at the time. Like I don't necessarily take the W's as gospel. Like sometimes I'm just kind of looking at them for more confluence than anything. So yeah, sometimes I won't wait for that other W, but... And you know, something I've mentioned in the Discord over the past couple weeks, guys, is usually when I've lost positions when scalping, it's been because I've avoided what the W's are telling me, and this was a fucking perfect example. I held on to my position anyways. and we obviously dropped below that 1 hour trend quite a bit. And when I got stopped out there on this scalp here, this was the warning that I ignored. Once again, I just figured that I would go by the trend instead of the W's, and that was one of those times where I should have listened to the W's, because that's a very strong confluence when looking for which direction to be scalping. For me anyways, I don't know, that's something that I've noticed recently, so thought it's worth sharing. Hey Stu, can you explain how you take profits and add back into your position when it's running? Yeah, absolutely. So let's say this is going, should I just go back and find a point? Just to find a good example of where it could have played out quite well. I haven't had one of those positions in a little bit. Basically, just to speed things along here. So let's say right now we set a W up here, and we set a higher W here, and then we pull back and get another W in here. So we have matching trending W's. Let's say I take a position on, we get a W right here, for example. Then we end up trending to the upside from here, and let's say we get up towards this resistance here, and what do you know, we get hit with a W reversal warning, or a TP if you use the take profit signals or anything like that. Whatever the case may be, let's say I'm just going to end up closing half my position, because you know what, I'm in a nice position here. I'd kick myself if I didn't take anything, so let's say I close a quarter or half my position, but then we pull back down and we get another higher W, for example, something like that. Then quite often what I'll do is I'll just add back into my position, so that even if this time it does fail and let's say we drop, I get stopped out because we lose my trending W structure. At that point, I still probably would have ended up making money, depending where and how much profits I took or whatever. At the very least, I end up having very minimal risk, just because I wait for basically that pullback and just looking for that trade setup to happen again, basically, right? We still have top W's trending to the upside, bottom W's still trending to the upside, just basically playing the trend of W's. And I've had days where you end up being able to just basically ping pong something like that and enter like, well, I've had days where you enter like 5 or 6 different positions, but playing basically the same strategy over and over, just because the trend of these W's keeps playing out so well. Those are the kind of times where I like to take partial profits and add back into my position and stuff like that. And yes, that's another prerequisite, is I need to be able to bump up my stop loss. If I'm adding back into my position, at that point, since I've already taken some profits, I don't want to take a loss. So I want to make sure that I'm able to move up my stop loss. So even though I'm adding to a position later, I'm actually screwing over my average entry a little bit. So I have to be cautious. Like if I'm adding back in, I'm not necessarily adding the full amount back in. I still want to be able to keep my stop loss, if anything, in a small profit, just to like eat up the fees and stuff like that. Hopefully that makes sense. How much do you add back in? The same as the first time? Yeah, so that totally depends how much I'm adding back on. It depends how close I can get my stop loss, what my average entry is going to be roughly. There's factors to how much I'm going to add back in. But yeah, basically if I'm adding back into a position, I don't want my stop loss to be in a loss anymore. Yes, CJoy, I am on MEXC, BTC, USDT, and I'm on the perpetual futures chart, not spot. I haven't really noticed the chart and the price being a few dollars off. Is it possible you're looking at the spot chart? So you're looking at the spot chart on TradingView, and you're looking at the futures price when you're entering your trade. That could be a thing. Or maybe there is just a little lag sometimes. It is possible that the TradingView chart isn't lining up perfectly there, Thump. Let me just bring up your chart here. Oh yeah, it looks like you're on perpetuals. Yeah, I haven't noticed it varying. I honestly haven't paid that close attention. But yeah, I believe you're on the same chart as me there, Thump. C-Joy, also, are you sure you're on perpetuals? Because there's this one right here, Mexi Spot Crypto. That's not the one I'm on. I'm down, way down here, Swap Crypto Mexi BTC Tether Perpetuals Futures is the chart I'm on. Yeah, like I don't think there generally is a lag time between TradingView prices and the user interface of the exchanges. I mean, it might happen sometimes, but I think generally speaking, it's pretty bang on. But again, I could be wrong. I haven't paid that close attention. No, I can't check the seconds on mine. I should really upgrade mine someday so I can join you on the DGen time frames. That's a can of worms I don't know if I want to open. Although it'd make for a great stream. I probably should, hey? One of these days I'll load up the second charts. If you go down to the 5 second, you can use the W strategy pretty well. Nice, nice. You know I'm a sucker for DGen time frames. Where you take the calls on the opposite side of the W's? You mean like if you see a short W, you long instead? Or you mean like when, if they're trending to the upside, then you wait for the bottom one to appear? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to see right now on the 1 minute. I want to see a couple trend to the upside and then wait for that higher W on the bottom. That's generally what I like to see when I'm scalping. Well, guys, not a heck of a lot is happening here, and I have been. Holy crap! It's been like 2 hours here. I know the girlfriend got home. I might take off here. I should go eat and whatnot. 7 o'clock. I haven't watched Pepe in a little while. What has Pepe been doing? I don't want spot. There we go. Pepe, oh, she's dumping, hey? Yeah, so Pepe, just like Bitcoin, kind of dropped an important support box there. Now possibly flipping it into resistance. So, yeah, kind of depending what Bitcoin does, right? But I think if we can end up reclaiming this box, then things are going to look very nice. But if we just end up testing into this box and getting rejected, I think that's where there's much further downside in store. Maybe test back down to some of these levels. How's it looking on the DGen timeframes? What's the 1 minute of Pepe looking like? W's also trending downwards. Well, these are basically even with one another. Bottom one's trending lower. Might see a little bit of a double bottom here or something. I don't think I'll be taking a trade on Pepe right now, though. Like I said, I'm going to be going to eat here right away and whatnot, so I don't know how close I'm going to be watching the charts. Oh, there's that bearish cross on the 1 hour trend. So yeah, like I was saying, guys. Sorry, I got to catch up on the chat here. Why do you make more money on alts? Is it because they are moving more percentage? Yeah, exactly. Just generally speaking, you know, if Bitcoin's moving 1%, altcoins are moving a few percent kind of a thing. So if things are good and Bitcoin's doing good, altcoins are probably doing better. But if times are tough and Bitcoin's getting its ass kicked, then altcoins are generally taking a bigger ass kicking. So yeah, just higher percentages. Quite often, I look at altcoins like built-in leverage because they do follow Bitcoin so closely. But yeah, they're just more volatile. It takes less money to move them, right? So they generally move bigger percentages just since they have lower market caps. But obviously that risk goes the other way too. And quite often you can use higher leverage with Bitcoin compared to most altcoins and stuff too. So, I mean, you don't have to necessarily use altcoins. But yeah, they're just a little more volatile, right? But guys, like I said, I think I'm going to wrap up here. I'm starting to get hungry and I've got a few things to do tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, yeah, it's too bad that that scalp long never did play out there. But if you can take anything away from this lesson, just, yeah, like I said, as far as the W strategy goes, just notice that how well it can give you a bit of a warning signal. So even not necessarily just taking wins off that strategy, but even being able to avoid losses can be a very powerful tool there. And as well, market structure. Like I said, just, if we're in kind of an uptrend, like here we had low, lower low, this would be the lower high. Then we obviously broke that level, came back down. So this was now our new high. Came back down, tested that, broke up above, set a higher high. So this was now our higher low. And as soon as we lost that uptrend, it did not last very long, obviously. As soon as we lost that level, that support flipped to resistance and broke down. So just a good lesson in market structure, and as well as looking at those W's for warning of which way the trend is moving, kind of a thing. So hopefully you found some value in that. Yeah, exactly. I demonstrated how it goes when I violate my own strategy. So that was obviously a mistake there. Lesson learned. It was just a small scalp anyways. I really don't care. That's just a part of trading. But yes, if you can take anything from this lesson today, the W strategies can be very strong confluence. And once again, proving that I lost scalp by avoiding my own strategy. I still would have taken a loss here had I exited. But that would have been such a small loss if I had entered right here, right? I mean, barely anything. So such a good early warning sign there. So hopefully you found some value in that, if nothing else. And like I said, the structure lesson. So other than that, guys, obviously, as always, none of this has been financial advice. Always do your own research and form your own opinions. But if you were watching this stream a little later on my YouTube channel and appreciated this video, please do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. And if you want to be a part of these live streams with myself and other live coaching events in MDX Crypto's VIP Discord, as well as having access to my favorite indicators on TradingView, there's a 15% discount referral link down below to join. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.